On today's episode, we are talking to Kimberly, who is an international dating and relationship coach who supports men to attract and keep healthy, loving relationships. She has thousands of hours of direct, intimate work with men on confidence, dating, and relationships, and brings a mastery of coaching, emotional maturity, practices, and leadership to her clients. Kimberly's unique coaching style brings in a humorous and lighthearted approach while getting deep into the heart of what really matters. She will find out what truly moves you and get you the results you're looking for when it comes to dating, relationships, and love. She has experienced a wide range of modalities and practices from psychology, energy healing, mindfulness-based stress reduction, relationship theory, dating strategy, neurolinguistics, and solution-focused coaches. My name is Bruno, and this is The Battle Plan. All right, guys, this is an episode that you'll want to stay tuned in because Kim, who is a very, very good friend of mine, we have basically talked pretty much every week, if not every 2 weeks, and I am so happy to have her on the show today. Kim, how are you?
You're hilarious. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm having my morning coffee. I'm relaxed. I'm excited to chat with you and give some value to the audience.
Yes, absolutely. And guys, if you hear me say Kimbo, that's how I call her. So most of the time, all the time, actually. So don't be afraid. That's Kim. That's her. It's just how close. That's how close we are. So Kim, you know, like in your bio, which was obviously amazing, we said, you know, that you're an international dating coach and you help men date or understand or realize relationship. What made you decide to go down that route? Because you've done this stuff before, which we're going to talk about, but why this one?
It's a really good question. It's probably my number one most asked question and like the most random questions I get from people on my social media. Like, why do you coach men? And I don't have a great answer for it. All I know is that like through my history and the work I did before, I've always worked in very male-dominated industries, having been in financial derivatives in Australia and Singapore. And I was always in a work environment with men. And I think just through osmosis, I just picked up a lot of the struggles that men were dealing with, especially in high-stress job environments. And because I was one of the only females on the broking floor in both Sydney and Singapore, I had really close relationships with a lot of these men. And they would open up to me about what was going on in their lives. And I was often able to provide a really like just non-judgmental ear, and they felt really comfortable sharing like what was really going on internally for them. That also made me realize like men are a very under-supported part of our society. And without giving you the whole long story, a bunch of series of events led me to realize that I wanted to leave kind of my corporate job and become a coach, and always really knew I wanted to be in that kind of helping practitioner space. So I made some pretty big decisions along with working with my own coach for about a year that led me to realize that I was going to open up a business called the Self-Confidence Project. And then of course I started coaching women because it just felt like natural. I'm a woman, I should help other women. I mean, like women, sisters, we all stay together. And that's where my entire business started. Supporting women in the workplace, supporting them with their confidence. And then of course I started working with another coach, and that coach really drilled me and said, Kim, what are you really good at? And we identified that I work really well with men. I allow men to feel like they have a really safe space to explore what's going on with them. And so I switched my business model to supporting men as well. And then throughout time, I recognized that the underlying theme of what men were needing support-wise was around dating and relationships. They would come to me with everything that was going on in their lives, but the thing that was crushing them the most or causing them the most stress or causing them the most challenge had to do with dating and relationships and the women in their lives, and they wanted a female perspective. So long story short, I built my business through coaching many, many men and getting many qualifications to really focus on becoming an expert in this field. And that's what led me to where I am today, which is pretty much exclusively coaching men around these topics. So here I am.
Which I love because, you know what, to be honest to the audience, as I'm very transparent and everything, you and I have had a lot of conversation about my own relationship, about relationship itself. And we exchange and we do these things. And I can attest to the fact of how easy it is to speak to you about some topics that, men have a hard time even communicating. Because you and I, as coaches, we know that sometimes the person doesn't even know what's wrong, especially men, right? Because we're raised now a little bit more with the men coming up, the younger men coming up. They're a little bit more in touch with their feelings and everything. But, communicating that to you, which you were already finding out in which direction, or maybe which questions to ask, which would elicit that, which made the environment very, very safe to open up and for self-realization. I find that. But what is the most common thing that men ask you when they come in, or where do they get stuck at and I'm trying to create that experience of when somebody calls you or gets in touch with you, because we knew each other from before. But if a brand new person were to call you, what's the first thing that usually kind of comes up to mind, or how did they start this conversation?
There's two streams of men, or two kind of types of men that reach out to me for support. The first is a man that is single, and there's a good chance that this individual has had a couple of rough relationships. Okay, they could have been toxic ones or just relationships that ended badly, and they were devastated by them. They might have even been married and now divorced. They could even have kids, and they're single, and they really want to find the right kind of person for them, but they don't really know where to start. So they maybe have been dating a little bit, but they're frustrated. Online dating, they say it sucks. They are getting ghosted. They can't get past a second date. They feel like no matter what they do or how hard they try, they're not getting the responses they want from women, and they're frustrated in the dating experience. So they're coming to me because they're literally going, I don't know where to start. I am frustrated and I'm having these emotions and I don't really know how to process them. And then they say, I don't actually even know what I'm looking for. So that's one stream. The second is men that are actually in relationships already, and they're going, I've hit a wall. I'm stuck. I am recognizing that there are skills that I don't have that I know that I need, such as effective communication, or my partner and I are having conflict and it is not productive and I need to understand how to get through to her, or the relationship feels like we're friends and we're separating from one another and I need to find my way back to my partner. So men are in relationships and they generally want to make those relationships work. They just don't know where to start to make it work because they feel like they've tried things for years and it's not really translating. So they're coming to me for like support and guidelines and a female perspective. So those are the two kind of issues that end up majority wise end up working with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Those are actually, I can recognize these too. And and what about like that? Let's if you can, let's split them up if that's okay with you. And so with the person who you just said, I don't even know, I'm getting frustrated. Like you said, the first guy he's meeting, he's trying everything. He's reading the magazines. He's, doing his hair a certain way, buying the clothes, doing the thing. And he's still not meeting the women. But you did say something very much for me as a coach that I picked up. It says, what am I looking for? I'm not even know what I'm looking for. Or, because we, if you want to talk about, the love languages and everything like that, but I'll let you do that. But how does that go?
Oh, like in terms of them saying, I don't know what I'm looking for?
Yeah. So this guy who's frustrated with women he can't meet, because we have some out there. There's actually some younger generation that are, and I'm going to say the name, but they're decided to be celibate because they don't want to date women and all these things, right? There's a word for it and I can't find them. I find it right now as we're speaking for it, but they decide to be celibate because they're so frustrated with women on the other side and they can't meet up and all these things.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's like even a group of men that have formed and it's like against women. Like they're basically saying we don't need women in our lives because let's be real, they've been so hurt by experiences with women that they're literally put off them forever, which is so unhealthy, right? Like we don't want to ever get to that extreme. But yeah, a lot of these guys, what in their minds, they're not thinking about the positives of what they're looking for. They're running away from the negatives. So there's something that happens in my mailing list where every now and then I send out an email to the man on my mailing list and I say, do you want support to stop attracting the wrong types of women? And they're all like, yes, please. Because their frustration is that they feel like they're attracting the same type of relationship over and over and over again. But then when I ask them the question, well, what kind of relationship are you looking for? They're like, oh, I haven't really thought about this. I'm just so clear on what I'm frustrated with and what I don't want. I haven't spent any time thinking about the kind of woman I actually want to attract. So what's really happening here, Bruno, is they're going out with what I call the spaghetti at the wall dating strategy. They're just putting themselves out there with really no idea what they're looking for, what they're wanting to create, and they're hoping that it works out perfectly. And it doesn't for really anybody. So I help them get clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you transition them? So is it about doing the work themselves? Is that what you coach them on? Or do you just open up their eyes on what the possibilities are out there?
All of it. So of course, every man that I work with, we have individual goals that we're looking to achieve in our time together. But yes, for some men, the journey might be, let's really understand what your current beliefs are around dating and relationships, because there are probably going to be some areas that we need to amend, or some beliefs we need to unlearn, or some new beliefs that are going to support you as you move forward, right? So we look at like the mindset first. Do they have a fixed or growth mindset when it comes to dating? Huge. We all have to start here, right? We also, before we even get into the dating strategy and the relationship stuff, I ask them how they feel about their lives as a single individual. Are they satisfied with what's going on? Do they like their work? Do they have friends? Have they got good relationships with their family? Like we really do a deep dive into like that individual, they're showing up in the world. The truth is, we can't go into the dating strategy and good relationships if that individual hates themselves or they have no joy in anything they're doing, because that's the wrong ingredient for a healthy relationship, right? We need to already feel whole and satisfied within ourselves before we invite somebody into our lives. So we look at our beliefs, we look at like what's really going on in their lives right now. And maybe that takes a little bit of time before we even move to the dating and relationship stuff. It might just be a month or two of a deep dive into what's really happening internally for them. When we get more clarity there, then we start to understand, okay, well, what do you want moving forward? What kind of relationship do you want to have? What kind of woman do you want to attract into your life? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Like, talk to me about that experience. And then I challenge them as well, Bruno. I'm like, well, what do you value? Because what a lot of people think makes good compatibility is like, oh, I really want to find somebody with the same interests as me. Great. But what does that even mean? Like, you both like golfing? Does that equal a healthy relationship? No, it doesn't, right? So I help them understand what their core values are, because compatibility is much more based on alignment of our value structure than it is our common interests. It's nice to have common interests with one another, but we can create common interests over time. We don't change our value structure for someone else, or we shouldn't. A lot of people do, right? For example, do you want to have children? Yes or no? Do you value family? Are you someone that likes to have a secure home base and you want to expand your life from there? Or are you more whimsical and wanting to travel? These are like really important questions to understand as you're going forward in the dating and relationship process, because if I want to have children and I meet a man that really doesn't, then we're going to argue about it for the rest of our lives. So we have to find out our values and our compatibility. And then we figure out how to date and the strategy and the boundaries and what makes good relationship and all of that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we then go through. So it's very practical, right? I'm getting men to open their minds and have new perspective, and I'm also getting them to do the work. So it definitely is work to work with me.
And that tells you that you found a good coach, because a good coach is going to make you do the work, because at the end, the work's going to be yours, right? Which a lot of people confuse. Yes, absolutely.
We can talk about stuff all day long, but if you're not actually taking actions on it or applying it, I always say to people, go ahead, read as many self-help books, listen to audiobooks, go to conferences, do whatever you want, have all that info in your brain. But if you don't know how to apply it or use it, what good is it?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You're right. So that was for the guy who's, the man who's, who has been trying to date, not finding the women. And then you walked him through this process. What about the husband who calls you, right? And says, I'm stuck in that relationship? Because that's the second type of men that you help, and myself included. And it doesn't mean that the relationship is in any way bad. It could be going very well. There are just things missing. And then we reach out to you. So what happens there? How does it differ from the one that we just talked about?
It doesn't really. We still have to look at how that individual is showing up in life, if they're feeling satisfied, what their community support looks like, if they're passionate about anything. Like, we have to look at their life. It's kind of funny, Bruno. That's why I call myself a life, dating, and relationship coach, because that is literally the order in which it needs to go. Sort your life, then you can date, then you can have a healthy relationship. If you miss
that was deep. Let's let the audience really catch this on. So say that again. Okay.
Sort your life, right? Feel abundant, feel satisfied. You don't need to feel happy every day. It's not what I'm saying. You need to feel a high level of satisfaction in your life, okay, before you start dating. Then you're going to date, and you're going to be dating with confidence and dating with clarity and attracting the right types of people because you're putting out the right kind of energy. Then you find a right partner for you. And then you still have this life satisfaction and this great mindset and this confidence, because now you're in a relationship and that takes work. So you have to be in a good mindset and have the right mindset towards relationships in order to make them work. So that's why I feel like there's a logical order that we need to approach things. That's why my approach is very holistic. And it's the exact same kind of method in a way that I'm doing for single men that I am doing for men in relationships. Because I'm not gonna coach a man that comes on and just wants to complain about his partner. That is not going to be fruitful. I'm not going to be able to help you with that. I'm a very good listener, but anybody is going to tire of that, and it's not going to be productive for you. How are you going to move forward in your relationship if you're just hiring someone to listen to your problems, right? So we figure out really what's going on in your own life first, because we all know this kind of toxic belief that many of us are relying on our partners to make us happy. And I put that that reel out the other day, where I was like, dear men, it's not your responsibility to make the woman you're dating or the woman you're married to happy all the time. Like, take that burden off yourself, because you're going to crush your soul, right? You're going to give up everything that brings you joy in your life just to make someone else happy. And guess what? You won't, because that's not where it comes from. So that's normally the first thing that I have to look at with men that are already in committed relationships, and say, what are you doing right now that you think is supposed to be helping your relationship, but actually isn't? And they go, well, I'm doing everything for her. I go, well, there's your problem. Stop doing everything for her. Yeah. Right.
Because that is a common thing, right? We've been raised to say, a happy wife is a happy life, and we put it into it, and we just do that. And also, I think for me to realize that even though we've been together for a long time, we also grow. Each of us grow, and we grow out of things, grow into new things. And there needs to be a communication there to keep the polarization going. And those are the tricks, I think, to come there. But you were right. You hit on so many things of going, like, you can't make the other person happy. But in the same time, I think it's important to realize that it's our responsibility to make ourselves happy and to work on that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like the number one most attractive thing that I see in my partner is when he's doing things he loves, when he's in his passions, when he's excited about what's going on. The last thing I want to see is my partner stressed out and anxious because he's trying to do something perfect to make me happy. I'm like, whoa, relax, man. I don't like this version of you. Just do what brings you joy. Of course, meet my needs and I'll meet yours, and we have that relationship that's going on. But if you start giving up the things in your life that bring you joy just because you think it's going to please me, it won't. I'll lose respect in you. And I see so many dynamics in relationships where men are like, yeah, well, I used to like go out with my buddies, but I don't anymore because that one time when I did, my wife got all hissy about it. Mm-hmm. And so the message to the ladies is like, go do shit that you enjoy. So you're not so desperate for the company of your man all the time to bring you joy. Go figure out what your own passions are. Like, I'm not necessarily like, oh, poor women. It's like, no, like we're strong, independent women. We can, especially in Western culture, of course, there's a caveat here, right? We are responsible for creating our own satisfying lives. And if we have an amazing man who's a catch, who does all these great things, and then now that we're committed to him, he gives all those things up for us, that's not the man that we fell in love with. And we don't want to be like, almost like thinking of an analogy of like women being like a dark hole and we just like suck all the life out of the men around us. It happens in a lot of relationships, and I laugh about it, and I see you're excited to say something there. It's because I was doing that in my relationships before. I was expecting my partner to be there with me in every goddamn moment, and it was codependency.
There you go, codependency. And that's the thing, because men and women, we're going to become together. We're going to love it. We're going to become friends and soulmate and all these things. But then we lose our identity, which is the person we fell in love with. So now this independent woman that, you know, had her own job, at her own place, at her own, on my list of what I wanted in a partner, is now becoming this needy person who needs me there all the time. And the same thing is the man transforming, gives his freedoms away, gives his thing. So I got to be at home to take care of my wife because she's, and that's what I meant about depolarization, as in now.
Yeah, and then the man becomes needy. Yeah.
Right.
Because now he's given up everything that brings him joy. So now he needs more from his partner too. And now all we do is fill each other's needs all day long and have really not a whole lot else going on around us. Where did all this come from? Right? Like, it's happening to almost everybody I know around me.
Exactly. And a lot of relationship, obviously, that I work with people, it's exactly what's going on. They've become two of the same. And now there's no excitement. There's no difference. There's no push pull. Everybody's going the same way. And this is what it is. Because, you know, we find that people at a certain age will say, you know, they want to sit a midlife crisis, but they come along and they say, hey, man, I've done everything I was told. I went to school, got the degree, got married, got the house, got the kids, got the golden watch. I'm CEO or I'm whatever. But now what? Now what? And they look at their partner going, I thought this was the dream that we're living. So I think that meeting with a coach like yourself would elicit that so that they can have that beautiful life that they're talking about. Would you agree?
Totally. I basically, in another way you could say it, I support men to lead unbelievably like satisfying, fulfilled lives first. Then I help them to share that with the right kind of person for them and have the right kind of tools and strategies and effective communication and then deal with the inevitable difficult times that are going to come in a relationship.
Awesome.
It's like, for the audience, whoever's listening, think of 3 things that you absolutely love doing in your life that don't include your partner. Right? And no one needs to answer that. It's just a takeaway. Just think about 3 things that you love doing for yourself. And it could be something simple like journaling or going for a walk or making a meal or hunting or whatever it is that you do that you enjoy. Just think of 3 things that you love doing that don't necessarily include your partner.
I'll answer for the
And
audience.
then I want you to ask yourself,
working out
10 years down the road. When you're, tell me. Tell me. What are the 3 things
out,
you...
which is one of my favorite things to do, right? On my own, because I'm in the zone. So working out, watching movies, and playing video games. Those are my 3 things that I love to do, that I need to have my alone time. Those are the things that I really do. And yes, I said video games. Absolutely. I love them. I'm a 47-year-old guy that likes video games.
For me, I'm like, very stereotypical, I guess. I love cooking amazing meals. And that's something that I typically do when I'm alone and I have time and I'm like, oh, like, how do I want to fill my time in a productive way? I'm like, oh, I'll make amazing soups or something for winter. And I enjoy doing it. And then for me, it's going out for really nice walks on my own, listening to audiobooks, or just like literally like listening to nothing and just getting out of the house. And I always feel so much better after, and so recharged. And after my walk, I'm like, where's my partner? I want to share this awesome energy with him.
Right.
And gosh, what's my third? I'm sad to admit it, but organizing stuff. Organizing stuff in my business, organizing stuff in my life, or whatever. Like that's something else that I love doing.
See, that's awesome. And that's a good question. What are the 3 things you like to do without your partner, and start doing that again?
Yeah.
I have 2
100%.
questions. Yeah, I have 2 questions that I think that are really important in today's world. The first one is going to be, what do you think, and how does it help your work about the new dating apps, Tinder and all these apps that are out there? And then the second question would be, we'd like to talk about the types of relationship out there. Right? Do you help people that are in different types of relationship, especially that when they're saying the 30 and below now, with polyamory, with open relationships and all these things? So I'd like to talk about that. But first, let's start with the dating apps. How is that making your job easier? Is this a good thing for us? You know, like compared to how we grew up when they weren't there, but how is that affecting your work?
Okay, so it's a double-edged sword. Pretty much everybody I work with has had some experience with online dating, and I would say the majority are very frustrated and burnt out from it. I'm a very big advocate that online dating can be a very effective tool and a great way to meet awesome people, and I think that people are very quick to dismiss it. So double-edged sword. So it's good and bad for my business. Of course, people are really frustrated with the process, and so they need a little bit support with it, and I can help them with that. Okay, so I also help men with setting up their online profiles on dating apps, helping them to represent themselves in a more authentic way, because I think people really breeze over how to really write the right bio and actually select the right photos. And so that's part of the work I do. We maybe take half a session or 1 session to actually sit down and help you create your Tinder or Hinge or Bumble profile. Of course, people are using eHarmony and Match and everything as well. And so I support them with that, because if you're having a bad experience online dating, you can't just blame everybody else, right? You also have to look at how you're representing yourself. Have you chosen photos that are actually authentic and represent you? Right? Can people see your handsome face or what you like to do with your life? Are you putting photos on there that represent your hobbies and interests? If you're not, you should, because the truth is, with online dating, the kind of negative that comes along with it is the speed in which we can breeze through people. And I always say, like, the second part of that is having like mindfulness and boundaries around it, because slow down. I told a client the other day, I said, next time you open up your dating app, I said, do not do this. For the listeners, I'm doing the like quick finger swipe, because we look and we're like, how do we know in a millisecond that that person is not right for us? So the negative is that we're overlooking people. We're looking for some kind of perfection on there. And that's the first problem. You're not going to find someone if you're looking for perfection, because it does not exist. So you might as well just give up altogether. So having the right kind of authentic profile, having the right kind of imagery on there, writing the right kind of bio that does not include negativity. You don't want to bring past negativity in your bios. I see that all the time, where guys are like looking for something serious, you know, swipe past me if you don't like this, or it's a negative energy, and people are not looking for negativity when they're on there. So making sure they're representing themselves in an authentic and appropriate way, and slowing down with their use of it. I give my own personal story here, where before I met Andrew, I was on Tinder and some other apps, and Tinder is where we met. And I remember one day I was literally doing exactly what I tell you guys not to do. I was swiping through at like rapid fire. And I just remember my mindset was like, what on earth is on here? I hate every photo of everybody. This is such a pile of garbage. And then I was like, what am I doing? These are people behind these photos. These are real people on here looking for someone. And who am I to think that I'm better than all these people? And I literally had this epiphany and caught myself. I'm so glad I did. The next time I got on there, I slowed down and it's funny, it's going to sound negative, but I reduced my expectation from looking for a 10 out of 10 to an 8. That's just how it made sense in my brain. I said, I need to stop trying to find this perfect person and slow down and consider people that catch my eye, but maybe I need to look at their pictures for a little bit. And I hope that's translating and making sense. And so I went through the app and I went slower, just a little bit slower. Okay. And I looked through some photos and I read some stuff. And of course there were people right away that I knew were not for me, and I breezed past them. But those ones that I would like, wouldn't have been caught in the 10 out of 10, but got caught in the 8 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, I stopped for a minute. And guess who popped up? Andrew. Andrew popped up with a little blue star. So I already felt good. So there's a little tip for guys too, for like, you're not paying for it, consider it, because you do get some features that help you with the algorithm and stuff. And so I saw Andrew there, and I swear to God, Bruno, I would have gone right past him, because the first image that he had maybe wasn't his strongest by my female standards, right? By my standards, not his. Okay. So I slowed down and I went through the photos and I read his bio, because most people won't even read a bio. They'll just swipe past the photo. They won't even give people a chance to read the few characters they've got on there. And I read his bio and it made me effing laugh. And I'm sure lots of guys have used this, but he wrote some stuff, and I can't remember whatever he wrote other than, I hate when guys flex their height. Oh. It makes me 6'2" my stomach. And I was like, he's got help writing that for sure. This guy is funny. Boom, I'm attracted to humor right away. He already just became more attractive to me. And I remember screenshotting it and like showing friends and starting this conversation with Andrew. And now Andrew and I are together and we're in a very loving relationship, and I adore the man so much. But I could have so quickly gone right past him. And just the thought of having done that, the thought of having missed him because I was using an app in an unhealthy way, like breaks my heart. Like it really, if I had missed this opportunity to meet him because of my negativity in using it, is such a shame. So it's like, let it be a lesson to people too, that, and here I'm such a long-winded answer to your question, online dating can be a really amazing, effective tool if you use it properly. If you don't, it sucks. If you don't use it properly, it is a minefield with disaster. So you get to choose how you want to show up and how you want to use it.
You know, I agree with that. And I think to just kind of clarify this, I think it has to do with when you go onto the apps, like anything else. And, you know, as coaches, we know this, when you're making a decision or when you're trying to do something, where are you making that decision from? Are you making that decision from desperation? Are you making that decision from fear, from whatever that is? What I got from you when you were explaining this, and thank you very much for being transparent and honest about your own personal experience with it. And basically you said, you know what, let's slow down here. Let's look into people, because we are people persons, both you and I, and that's the thing. And on this app, it's really quick to go and come from, I'm going to say, the animal brain, going like, oh, she looks great. She looks great. She looks awesome. And I'm just going to swipe right. And, you know, and then, you know, throw spaghetti at the wall, like he said. Or you slow it down, which is how I met Sarah on Tinder, by the way. We've been together for 7 years now. And that's the thing. I was reading bios and I was looking at the energy, and believe it or not, Sarah didn't have a bio, which was pretty weird, but it was meant to be, right? Which I believe. And my bio, because I had been on it 3 different, that was the 3rd time I would go. You know, my last time I said, you know, I was really honest and mature into the bio was like, I have a son, I'm divorced, you know, this is what it is. I'm not really looking for a hookup. I'm looking for this type of person, and everything, to really put in that I was serious at the time, because there was no great. Right.
Yeah. So, saying what kind of person you're looking for is a good idea on there.
Right. Because I was actually, I had made a list on my fridge of what I was looking for in a partner. So like you were saying, I was following the steps that you had said. Life first, then you start dating, then you have the relationship part. And that's what I did. And then so I elicited qualities and beliefs and values that I was looking into my next partner in life. And you know what? I hit it pretty close, very, very close, which was pretty awesome, and all these things. So no, I agree with the dating app. It's a good thing, like any other thing, like Facebook, like all of these could be very, very negative or could be positive if you're using it for what they're designed for.
Yeah.
So in that being said, in the dating app and all these things, because now there's different apps out there, there's different categories. I heard now on Tinder's, there's different categories as well. Do people about, in different types of relationship, one that's coming up right now in the world that I'm studying and all these things is polyamory. A lot of 30 under are polyamory. For people who don't know what polyamory is, did you want to explain it, Kimbo? Do you want me to go, or?
Go for it, Bruno.
Okay, yeah. So polyamory is that you have either a husband or a wife or a serious boyfriend or girlfriend. You're somebody that you're with. This is your primary. And then you can have a relationship with somebody else. Both the man and the woman can have a relationship. It is a relationship, which is very important to realize what polyamory is. That means you're in a loving relationship with a third person. And that is polyamory. A lot of 30 and unders are into that. That's the thing that they're getting into these days, because they found that they know that being tied to one person doesn't fit their agenda right now. Compared to an open relationship where you have your husband or your wife and you will go with either other couples or you will just meet somebody else for sex or all these things. There's a lot more to this. I've studied a lot into it to realize how researching relationship, but how does that affect your work? Do you work with, is there any clients that come up to you with that? Or is that something that's just part of the scenery that you work of that's what I work in?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So I think I'm not attracting that in my clientele. On the odd occasion, I do get questions about it through my social media where I answer a lot of people's questions just when I get spare time. I haven't particularly attracted many people that want to coach with me that are in that type of relationship. Now, it's pretty common. What's interesting, Bruno, is the majority of men that I'm coaching are 40s plus. And so they're very, very, they want to have monogamous relationships. That's what they're looking for. And so I haven't really had too much experience coaching men that are looking for that kind of relationship. The truth is, a lot of the relationship theory and information that comes out of the Gottman Institute and their relationship research that they've done is based on monogamous couples. So what I definitely would recommend for those individuals is understanding a couple of skills. Number one, communication, effective communication, not just talking, blah, 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 is having effective communication, mirroring, validating, understanding the tools that we need to really be hearing one another. And two, understanding boundaries. Okay, what does that relationship look like? Because you kind of get to define it yourself. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, it was a couple of months ago, the holistic psychologist on Instagram, she's got a really big account. She's come out, she's in a poly relationship. She's in a relationship with 2 other women. So there's 3 of them. And they obviously have to communicate very well, have strong boundaries around what that looks like. Personally, not for me. I'm looking for one person in my life, and already that's difficult enough to try and maintain and keep a effective relationship going with one person. I can't, and no way I have the brain capacity to be able to have a third person in my life in that kind of intimate way. Other people can, and no judgment here, right? Like if that's what works for you, yeah, absolutely go for it. Figure out how that works and how you can maintain that. The same fundamentals are going to apply, in my personal opinion. You're still going to need to understand whether you are all wanting to go in the same direction as a throuple, right? Do you want the same things from life? When it comes to children and your values there, how does that work in that relationship, right? You still have to understand how to make each other feel good and meet your needs and communicate and all that. So technically, if someone in that type of relationship wanted to work with me, we would be doing very similar work. We probably would just be focusing more on communication and boundaries. But the same kind of things apply. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. I can't imagine having to manage more than one relationship. So, my hat off to, like you said, no judgment at all, because we both believe in do you, make sure to be, do whatever makes you happy and all these things. The thing is that you're right. I'm just, as you were talking about it, and obviously the research that I've done, the first thing that did come out was communication boundaries, which are the rules, which is how does it work? Who's the primary, who's these things? And then when you said, oh, what about having kids? I'm like, oh, wow. How do you have that conversation with a throuple, right? Which is what they call them, right? So, it just blew my mind. I just got tired just by listening to it. I was like, well, now we gotta have that conversation. Yeah.
You and I are already putting whatever energy we need into the relationships that we have. There's no way for me, but there is ways for other people, and
absolutely,
that's totally okay. You just need to be very solid in who you are, first and foremost. To get into any relationship, you got to know who you are, what you like and don't like, be able to communicate that. You got to be able to do that with two people, right?
Yeah, now, and it does work.
An added level of complexity for sure.
And it does work. And like you were saying, the communication, I call it, being from the military, I call it the NATO level communication, which is NATO is the North American Treaty Organization. And they have to communicate between countries and all these things. So you have to have that. You have to have that communication and being able to just have these conversations and open up. That's the first one. When I did the research into relationship and the types of relationship came up, the open and polyamory were the one with the highest level of communication. And actually that made it very, very easy for me to understand how to communicate in a monogamous relationship, because I was like, oh man, they're really talking
from that.
About everything. They just don't leave anything, no stone unturned. They have to discuss everything, because they know that a little something that goes wrong could be nothing, could make the whole relationship blow up. And so they understand, compared to a monogamous, I didn't put my clothes in the hamper, or, she didn't close the, turn off the lights when she left, or whatever that is. That's okay. But when you have more than one person to deal with, that could, be a lot, which is my hats off to all of them, obviously.
You go from having two childhoods to two sets of beliefs, to two value sets, to two likes and dislikes, to having three of that. So if you can't effectively communicate with one person in a relationship, then you're in no position to have a third person there.
Exactly. Right. Because I've met some of my clients were in those types of relationship, and I've met them and they were really good communicator, which is something that I was impressed by, which was great. Awesome. So, Kimbo, to wrap things up here, we're going to have a few things. So the first thing I would like to ask you, what's the best advice you've ever received? Could be about relationship, could be about anything.
Well, the best two things, and they were related to dating, and they were when I was actually dating Andrew. Dating him actually triggered anxieties in me I didn't even know existed. Thanks, Andrew. So I reached out for support, because obviously I'm an advocate of getting support when we're feeling stuck or we're feeling anxious. And this is advice for individuals in the dating process. The first was, it's particularly for those that are maybe a little bit more anxious in dating, right? Was there is no rush, right? Slow down. We don't need to rush everything. And it was this coach counselor said to me, and it felt like she reached through the phone and slapped me across the face. She goes, "You don't know enough about this person to be certain." Because I remember after a few months, I was like, yeah, he's the one, like very like, and she goes, you don't know enough to be certain. So slow things down. And I was like, whoa, lady, like you just reached into my soul. So my advice to people out there dating is relax, take it slow, enjoy the process. There's not an end goal. Commitment is not the end goal. Enjoy it, get to know people, treat people as humans. You don't know enough about them to be certain right away. So spend time really getting to know somebody, not just in their good moments, but in their bad, right? Slow it down, really understand the person that you're spending time with. And the other was, Kimberly, in life, you need to be okay with some uncertainty. So I think a lot of us really like this element of being able to control everything and have everything in tow and know where we're going. And, you know, it's a straight line to where we need to get. It doesn't quite work that way. So understand that you need to be okay with some uncertainty in life, and develop the tools to help you process that uncertainty. And that could be a whole number of things. So 3 things really. There is no rush. Slow things down. You don't know enough about this person to be certain. So spend time getting to know that person, enjoy it, and learn to be okay with some uncertainty. For me, that was very profound.
Wow. That's awesome. I like it. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely slow things down, learn about each other, because you're not going to know that person till a few years down the road anyway. Right?
Truly, yeah.
Yeah. And still there's a lot to learn.
I'm still learning so much about myself and about my partner now, right? Like, it surprises me. I thought I kind of had it in the bag. I don't. Right?
It's not because we're coaches that we know everything. Right?
No way. As the world is changing and all the stresses and uncertainty, when we see how as a couple we either thrive or where we start to break down. And I'm starting to learn about what my coping mechanisms are and how that affects the relationship. And I'm learning about Andrew's, and it's like, it's very fascinating. And it's not easy all the time. Like, you know, yeah.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Share one of your personal habits that brings you to success, that contributes to your success.
Well, certainly for my business and what I do is being consistent. Right? Is when we learn a new skill, like we want to go try it and we want to see if like we're good, we'll keep doing it. If we're not, we're like, let's do something else. No. Be consistent with something, especially like for people out there dating or in relationships. You can't just have one hard conversation and expect everything to be great the next day. There's consistency and patience needed. And it's the same advice I'd say to anyone that wants to start a business or run things. You need to be patient and consistent with yourself. I'm patient with myself in most regards. I'm very consistent and very organized in how I approach things. And that for me has been a really useful skill. All skills are double-edged swords all habits are double-edged swords, I believe, right? Also, it can be my downfall if I'm too much into the organizing of everything, but, and if I'm overly consistent, then I might, forget other things. But for me, definitely being consistent, showing up, knowing that trying one thing once is not enough. Advice that was actually given to me by Andrew a couple of years ago. He says, well, I always try everything twice because the first time might have just been an awful experience. And I'm like, he's just joking about it. And I looked at him, I was like, oh, so profound. You're like a wizard, man. And I'm like, yes, don't just do something once. If you actually hired a coach and didn't like it, it doesn't mean all coaches are bad. Try another one. If you used Tinder once and you didn't like it, it's not Tinder's fault. Go on a second time. If you went on one date with someone and you're not a little sure, go on a second one to find out. Try things more than once. Yeah. So
I agree with that. That's a great consistency works for pretty much all aspect of life. If you're consistent with things, you're going to find out, if you really, if you really like it. And I also bring in with consistency is the 10,000 hours to master a skill. Right. It's just one of those things. People will give up after a few times that they're not good, or they won't even start because they know they won't be good. And then ego kicks in, and I don't want to be, seen as I'm not, I'm supposed to be the man, or I'm supposed to be the woman that fixes everything. And all of a sudden I'm going to start this new skill or start this new thing. Like for me, podcasting and reels and Instagram and all this stuff, which is not in my wheelhouse whatsoever, but I'm being consistent and I go at it and being gentle with yourself, which because, the inner narrative. So I really like that. when you were thinking about growth, like you were saying, you use coaches just like I do. But when you're thinking about personal growth and you continue to that, where do you go for that? Do you usually read books? Do you go online? What do you suggest for people out there that are working on their growth?
Well, yeah, whatever you can be consistent with, I say. For me, I like to have my hands in all the different pies. So I'm buying books all the time. I'm listening to audiobooks. I'll watch documentaries, or even sometimes I'll binge on those Netflix series that also have life lessons in them. I.e. Dating on the Spectrum. If you haven't watched that, that's like the fundamentals of like good communication. These people are so blunt with one another. I love it. I don't know if you've watched it, but
I haven't watched
Great.
it, but I understand what you're saying. Actually, Netflix is really good at bringing real life issues to life with people that you're like, oh my God, this is so good. Like Easy is one of them. It's like a couple of different couples out of Chicago. Really, really good. And Wanderlust, which is an older couple trying to open up the relationship, which is really good over in the UK. Two really good series that actually brings real human values to the screen for you to look at and saying, wait a minute, maybe we should look into, communicating and a coach. Okay. So you were saying like, all of these things for your growth. Yes.
Yeah, so books, of course, reading, audiobooks, even watching docuseries. Of course, I'm reading stuff online all the time because I'm producing content all the time. So it's a never ending cycle. And then honestly, I feel like I learn a lot from the people around me, like even conversations with you, conversations with my partner, my family, just little tidbits of wisdom that I really I pick up. And just from community as well. Like I take lots of online courses. I'm always investing in like my growth and my learning. And I don't think that will ever end. Now there's obviously periods in my life where I need to just relax and just maybe watch junk for a little bit and reset my mind. But then I always come back to, what can I learn now? I'm doing a trauma workshop, or I'm learning about sexual health, or I'm learning about mindsets, or whatever it is that just helps me become a better person, and just kind of I'm a lifelong learner, right? And I think we're all students of life. So
absolutely. Long life. All life learner is what it is, right? Growth and contribution are the two needs that we need to constantly keep at the forefront. I think that's what fulfills us. I believe into that. Super easy questions to close this off. Favorite movie and why?
So why is interesting, but my favorite movie has always been Romeo and Juliet, the version that has Leonardo DiCaprio in it. I don't know what it is about it. It's obviously the intensity of the love and the story and the fact that there's tragedy in it. And I've always had that as one of my number one films. But my second film I have to share with you, as well as a film that has Claire Danes in it called Broke Down Palace. And it's a story about friendship. And it just makes me bawl.
Doesn't she go to jail for drugs in Thailand? Is that what it is? Yeah, that's
she does. And I don't want to spoil it in case people watch it, but the ending just oh God, it just makes me break up. So those two films, why? I think it's just the dynamics between the two main characters, just the love, the passion, the things people go through for one another. Those are mine. Those always have been mine. I actually knew the answer to this one. Yeah.
Which I can see that you like genuine, passionate human interaction. I think so. It looks like it. The ups and downs, the beautiful and the ugly, seems to me.
Yeah.
That that's what
for
goes
sure.
for you. Awesome. Kimbo, thank you so much for being on the show. You dropped down some really gold nuggets for our listeners. Before we let them go, where can they reach you? Because we're going to put all your links and everything down in the description below, and everybody will be able to reach out to you on all our social media. But where for those who are listening, where can they reach you?
Yeah, so number one place is go directly to my website, which is my full name, KimberlyNinaHill.com. You can read about me there. You can learn about where to find me on all other sources and Medium. And then, of course, you can book a free consultation with me. There's a link to do that right on my website. There's also a freebie download that I encourage people to get, especially if you're dating. It's called the Dating Handbook for Men. It's got tons of advice in there, jam-packed, like 15, 16 pages, some worksheets to help you get clarity on starting the dating process. That's free, and you can download that at my website as well. It gets you on my mailing list so that you'll hear from me monthly too. So that's probably the best place. And of course, if you want to just have fun with me and watch and get like free advice and free content, then my Instagram at Kimberly Nina Hill as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Guys, I highly recommend that you reach out, that you go download that book, and that you follow Kimbo. That you follow her, because she's absolutely amazing. I know so, but not only because she's my friend, but because she's also helped me through my relationship and to these things. It's always been a pleasure to catch up with her. Any parting words of advice for our audience?
Don't take life so seriously and have some fun.
That is awesome. That's Kimbo. Thank you so much for being on this episode of The Battle Plans. Guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.
Ciao.